Be with you, everybody who's here. Are you enjoying the weather? Yeah? If you're new to Reno, be careful, right? Sometimes it's nice and sometimes it's not. I looked at my weather app and it's coming, so just be very careful with that. Hey, my name is Warren. I get to be your service host here today, so it's great to be with you. Thank you so much for being here. Just a couple of things I have to go over, and then we'll kind of get into it. Our SCF app, we talk about it a lot, right? You know why we talk about it a lot? Because we use it a lot. So I want to encourage you to download that. We have a lot of events actually coming up here over the next couple of months, so definitely check that out. And our first thing next week, actually, our first kind of event of March, if you will, is Easter Jam. Now, it's FX. They do it every quarter, and the people who've been doing FX, they've been doing it for a long time. They're fantastic at it. They're really engaging to the kids, and it's a fun time. You go there with your kids. It's a time to worship. And I want to encourage you, it's going to be next week at 10 a.m., so it's during the service, but it's on the other side of this wall right here. And you just go in there with kids. It's just fantastic. So I want to encourage you to go there with the little ones next week. And next, now I was told to be very careful with this announcement. So theology for everyone. Some of you who are laughing already know what's coming, okay? We've had to cancel it 2 months in a row due to weather. I looked outside and it should be okay. But I'm not sure yet, so we'll see. But it's scheduled for next week at 6 p.m. The subject is pneumatology. If you don't know what that is, it's the Holy Spirit, the study of the Holy Spirit. Now, every Sunday, we kind of go wide with our service as far as try to cover a lot in the Bible. This is designed to go deep into the Bible. So I want to encourage you to definitely check that out. They do a fantastic job. Jason does a great job with it and really just makes you think about the Bible in sort of a deep way. So I want to encourage you to hit that next week. It will not be canceled, okay? Hopefully, we'll see how that goes, okay? And last but not least, you probably saw there's a table right out there in the cafe. It's called Foster the City. It was labeled out there. That is a great organization that SCF is supporting, and do some fantastic things in the Reno-Sparks area. And they have identified a need, and they're trying so much to pour into that need in a really loving and great way. To give you a little bit more information about them, here's a quick video on Foster the City. So enjoy.
Every day in our cities, children are placed into foster care because of abuse or neglect, a process that leaves these children feeling scared, confused, and alone. Right now, in most of our cities, there is a list of children waiting for a family to enter into their story. And the longer these children wait, the bleaker their situation becomes. Half of the children who age out of foster care will develop a substance addiction. 1 in 3 will become homeless. And statistics show that 60% of all human trafficking victims have a history in foster care. Something must be done. This is where followers of Jesus need to step forward. One of Jesus' most fundamental commands was to love our neighbor, and perhaps the most vulnerable neighbors in our cities today are children in foster care. Foster the City is a coalition of churches committed to loving these young neighbors, and we do that in 2 ways. First, by recruiting foster families, and second, by recruiting support friends. These support friends provide practical, emotional, and spiritual support to help families foster longer and stronger. Jesus cares deeply for the lives and stories of these children, and with Foster the City's model, anyone can make a difference. At Foster the City, we are moving towards the day when there will no longer be a list of children waiting for families, but a list of families ready for children. But we cannot do it alone. We need churches and people like you who are willing to say to our young neighbors, your story matters to God and your story matters to us. Learn more today at fosterthecity.org.
definitely list or learn more about them on their website. But like Warren said, we have a table out in the cafe. They would love for you to stop by, ask questions, and get connected. They also have an informational meeting coming up in March. You can find that information on our app or get that information at the table. At this point, we are going to stand and begin our service by worshiping our Heavenly Father together in this room by lifting our voices. Will you guys join us in doing that?
For the Lion and the Lamb, oh, every knee will bow before Him. So open up the gates, make way before the King of Kings. The God who comes to save is here to set the captives free. For who can stop the Lord Almighty? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles. Every knee will bow before Him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. His blood breaks the chains. Oh, every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Oh, every knee will bow before Him. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? 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 Yeah. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles. Every knee will bow before Him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. His blood breaks the chains. Oh, every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Oh, every knee will bow before joy when my heart is heavy in all my days. Oh yes, I will. I count on one thing. The same God who never fails will not fail me now. You won't fail me now in the waiting. The same God who's never late is working all things out. You're working all things out. Oh yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Oh yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy in all my days. Oh yes, I will for all my days. Oh yes, I will. I choose to praise, to glorify, glorify the name of all names. Nothing can stand against, and I choose to praise, to glorify, glorify the name of all names. Nothing can stand against, and I choose to praise, to glorify, glorify the name of all names. And nothing can stand against, and I choose to praise, to glorify, glorify the name of all names. Nothing can stand against. Oh yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Oh yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy in all my days. Oh yes, I will for all my days. Oh yes, I will for all my days. Yes, I will. I'm calling on the God of Jacob, whose love endures through generations. I know that you will keep your covenant. I'm calling on the God of Moses, the one who opened up the ocean. I need you now to do the same thing for me. Oh God, my God, I need you. Oh God, my God, I need you now. How I need you now. Oh rock of ages, I'm standing on your faithfulness, on your faithfulness. I'm calling on the God of Mary, whose favor rests upon the lowly. I know with you all things are possible.
Let's sing that one more time.
Oh God, my God, I need you. Oh God, my God, I need you. How I need you. Oh rock, I need
Amen. Thank you so much for worshiping with us. You may be seated this morning.
Morning, everybody. Hey, this series that we've been going through for me has been really needed in my life. It's something that I got excited when I saw it on the calendar that we're going to be talking about relationships because I don't know about you guys, I know for me in my own life, I feel like relationships sometimes get hard. So I got excited about it, and then as time went on and we started getting closer to this, I'm friends with Mike Zabella, who's our tech guy, and then his son, Mikey, is a friend of mine that was one of my students, and we got to hang out together, and I'm texting Mikey because he's in my small group, like, hey, what are you up to? And he goes, hey, I'm putting together the graphics with my father for this series, and we're building Legos. And I was like, wait, what? We're talking Legos with this series? And I got even more excited because I'm a Lego guy, okay? So I got excited from the very beginning of them. They put this together as like father and son came together to build this. And I think that was pretty cool. Like we're talking about family relationships, and you got these guys that sometimes you might not see as the Lego guys, but they got to do something together for this church, that they got to spend time together and build something together. And it got me excited. And then I started thinking through, okay, it's Legos, and that's me, and I'm going to go way, way, way deep into this Lego analogy today. So if you're not a Lego person, just go with me, okay? It's going to make sense. But then you got Jason coming in, and he's teaching, and he's like, I'm a Lego kid. I'm like, Jason's a Lego kid? Like, I didn't think that. Anyone else like that shocked them at the beginning of this? Like, I did not so I asked Jason, like, okay, what kind of Lego guy are you? Okay, are you the person that's like, hey, it's Lego plural, not Legos? Okay, because that's not me. I've always grew up saying Legos, and I'm getting critiqued by people like, hey, say it right. So I'm talking to Jason about it, and Jason and I are kind of the same type of Lego builder, right? We're the kind of kids that when we had our Legos, it was like, hey, I just cleaned my room because my parents told me to clean my room, and now all of a sudden I can see the floor, and it's like, I got to do something now. So I would take my big blue chest that I had of Legos and I just dump it across the floor, right? And then I have the space to build and create, and I'm taking all these different pieces that I've collected over the years, and I'm building something new out of my imagination. I asked Jason about it, like, hey, were you a set builder, or were you like, hey, let's build something out of our imagination? And the response on Monday night was like, dude, are you kidding me? I'm definitely going to be building out of my imagination. I'm not a set guy. Like, that makes sense. Now I'm seeing Jason's Lego background, right? But for me, like, I loved that. I was that, I'm going to mix pieces together. I'm going to make something different. Like, if I had a set and I put that set together, great, it was fun. I followed the instructions, yay. But what was really in my mind while I'm doing that is like, okay, I built the thing, and I'm excited for the day to break it down and mix it into my Lego collection. And I know that piece there or that figure there, I'm going to be using in something else down the line that's going to be way more fun. And that's why I wanted those sets, because I could see what I could put it into later. And then you got my brother on the other hand, my oldest brother. He was a set builder. Right? Like he was like, I built the set and it goes up in the shelf in my closet. And then he got to the point where he was creating some really amazing imaginary things that like out of his own mind, but again, when it was done, it goes up on the shelf and you don't touch it again. My other brother and I can remember we would go sneak into his closet and we would play with his Legos without him knowing, but we knew we needed to put them back in the exact space because he'd be really angry if he knew I touched it. Okay, like we had that in our mind of like, that's how he builds it. And his playing is the creation. It's not the action of playing with it down the line. And so I started putting those things together, and I loved thinking through when this came up, what was that like for me and how did I do that? And as life went on, I stopped playing with my Legos as much. And my big blue chest and went into storage, and it went away for a time. And then I had my kids. And as they started growing up, I was like, oh man, I get to build Legos with my kids again. I got back into the Lego world. And I got excited to share that with them. And so I bring out my big blue chest again, and I get to play with all those old pieces with my kids. And my 10-year-old, she's a set builder, and she likes to build it and set it aside. I'm like, oh, come on, kid. So much more fun. And there's so much more to it, but I got back into Legos with her, and then I found myself in the weird level of Legos. And I am now the adult Lego guy who's buying the adult sets, the big expensive ones, right? And I'm building the big expensive ones, and I've put a bunch into it, so now it goes up on my shelf in my office. And then I find myself at that whole other level, and if you've seen the Lego movie, it's like, oh my gosh, I just became the dad from the Lego movie. I'm sticking down my Legos so they don't move. I'm literally doing that lately. And so I just bought this set about a few months ago, and I bought this set that has 6,600 pieces in it. And it's this massive set, and it's a movie that I love, and there's so many scenes and things in it, and it's a beautiful set when it's finished. Right? There's trees and leaves and all these different scenes from the movies of every different angle that you look at it, and I have to place every individual ceiling tile on the roof of there's tons of little pieces that got to be lined up just right. And when the set is finished, it's beautiful. But majority of that build, it doesn't feel like I'm building what's on the box. See, this is the thing that came to mind when we talked about this series on relationships to me, is there's so many different levels to our relationships. And sometimes the most important level of the build doesn't look anything like the box on the end. As I'm building this set, I'm building this foundation that I can't see where it's going to go. And then I look at it, and there's neon pink Lego bricks in there. And if you're a Lego builder, you realize there's one guy who likes that color, and that works for Lego, and he puts one neon pink brick in every set at that level, right? That it's weird when you know the background, but in this set, that bright pink Lego piece is the most important piece of that set. That when I'm building it, if I don't have that, the 3-level building is not going to have the structure to withstand the weight of the set. As the levels come in and the weight comes in, I needed that foundation in the right place. And so I'm starting to put this together, and I'm looking at this series, and I'm listening to what we've been teaching through, and I'm like, yeah, that's my set. As we started with this concept, Jason talked about this idea of the relationship that we have with God at the very beginning, right? The first level is understanding your relationship with God. It's that foundation piece. It's making sure that if we understand who God is, and by the way, if you haven't listened to this series, I really, really encourage you to go back online and listen to the first 3 weeks of this, because they're really solid. But this idea of my relationship with God helps me understand what the truth is about relationships. When I talk about forgiveness and love and grace and patience and kindness and all these things I need in every relationship that I have, if I don't understand the definition of those words that come from God himself, the one who designed it all, I'm not going to be doing it right. That as I'm building this set together of my life and I'm looking at the different levels coming through, it's that bright pink piece. And for some of us, and for sometimes in life, we look at it and we say, as I'm building this kit, it's not very important, and we skip that piece. Or, hey, I don't need that right now, and it doesn't look like it's there. And things might not work out the best. What I love about Legos is usually comes with an instruction booklet that we can pause, and we can say, okay, I messed something up, it's not fitting right, and I can go back and I can rebuild that thing together. And if this is one of those things where you're like, hey, I feel like my relationships aren't working out right, maybe this is a pause moment to go back and say, is my foundation right? Do I have that bright pink piece that's telling me what the truth is and how I understand what every relationship could be based off of his definition as the one who designed it and built it in the first place? Then we go to that next level, right? The next layer that came in that we talked about, Rich came in and was talking about our relationship with ourselves. And I think he did a great job, and I think it's really important to understand how we view ourselves. And sometimes when we start to look at ourselves, we start questioning who we are and how we work into this life and what this looks like. And it's like, hey, come back to that foundation. This level is just structure built off that foundation. God's already told you who you are. He's already said what this is going to look like. Are you building off the foundation of truth of who he is to build that next layer of structure coming together to build into our relationship? Is it what I think about myself, or is it what he's told me who I am? And we start to put together this set that we have in our life. And then last week, Jason talked about our family relationships. And we're going to jump from analogy to analogy here, right? So Jason talked about this idea that it's kind of like a science lab. That you've got the book and the class and the lecture and you've learned the information, but when you live life with your family in a relationship, you're in the lab moment. And you're mixing the chemicals, and sometimes it comes out the way you're supposed to, but sometimes you mix that wrong chemical a little bit too much and there's a blow up. That family life and relationships is where we learn and we test out this relationship thing. And I like that idea a lot. And it's one of those things that, okay, as we're building the Lego kit that we have, it's like, okay, this is the Lego kit that's in the box. We all come with a relationship with God, a relationship with ourselves, and a relationship with our family. We have the pieces that are in the box with the instructions. And we can choose to build it off those instructions and try and make it look like it's supposed to look, or we can choose to do it our own way. And you might build something, but it might not look like what's on the box. As your family life might not look like the way that it was designed to be, you're not going to have the same pictures on the outside of that box. But we have the pieces there to build something, and hopefully it has something strong and something lasting and something that we can look at and go, yeah, I can see what that was supposed to be. Maybe I didn't build it as well as the guy who designed it, but I can see that's the same picture, right? And then we add another layer. And this is where me as the Lego kid, I get excited. We get to add another layer to this. As I look at like a spaceship set that I maybe built of Legos, and I am playing with it my way. And somebody that doesn't necessarily understand why I'm playing with it my way will look at it and go, why is there a pirate and a knight on your spaceship? They don't belong in this set. Why did you take it from this and put it over here? And I'm sitting there going, well, because there's a dragon and we need the knight because there's a dragon problem on the spaceship. Like, how do you not get that? We know that there's going to be a dragon problem, so I need the right expert to handle the right thing. And I brought that from what I needed outside of this set in to fix the problem that I see. It makes sense to me because I'm the one playing in my mind with my story. But to somebody else looking in, it doesn't make sense. See, and this added layer is what I get excited about, is our friendships and our relationships with our friends. It's the people that we get to look at, the collected pieces of our life and the things that we have done, and I get to choose who I bring into this set for my life. It's a little bit different of a relationship. That's what we get to talk about today. Excuse me really fast. Sorry, I felt that one coming. Didn't want to cough in the microphone in your ears. But we get to build these relationships the way we want to. And we get to bring people in our relationships that maybe don't make sense to somebody else. And maybe you've heard this phrase in your life before. Maybe you've heard from somebody say like, hey, show me your friends and I will show you your life. Anyone heard something along those lines before? Jason and I talked about this on a Monday night one time, and we're sitting there in our small group, and we're talking about this idea that show me your friends and I'll show you your life is usually used as a term in a negative sense. Hey, show me the influences that you're hanging out with. Show me the people that you're hanging out with, and I'll tell you how much they're going to influence your life in a negative way. That you better put the right people in your life so that you are built up in a way that is taking care of you and you don't end up like those people. And it's this very negative push away. And on the first glance of that, you're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, no, like I don't like that. Because that's not the example that I see through Jesus. Jesus didn't go and just pick the best people that he wanted in his life and say, these are the only people I'll hang out with. He seemed to do the opposite. He went to the lowest levels of what society said was the people that don't belong. Those pieces don't belong in this set. Why are you playing with those ones? And he said, no, I see them for who they are and for the picture that I am playing with in my mind of this is what I want to design in my set. And if that's Jesus' example for us, then I got to ask the question of like, why am I doing something different? And if I'm doing it different, what does that look like in my life? So what we're going to look at today is a moment where Jesus encounters people asking that very question. Why do you have those people in your set? And it comes from the book of Mark. It's in chapter 2. It's going to be up on the screen if you guys want to follow along as I read it. In Mark chapter 2, verse 13, we read this. It says, "Then Jesus went out to the lakeshore again and taught the crowds that were coming to him. As he walked along, he saw Levi, the son of Alphaeus, sitting at his tax collector's booth. 'Follow me and be my disciple,' Jesus said to them. So Levi got up and followed him. Later, Levi invited Jesus and his disciples to his home as dinner guests, along with many tax collectors and other disreputable sinners. There were many people of this kind among Jesus' followers. But when the teachers of religious law, who were Pharisees, saw him eating with the tax collectors and other sinners, they asked his disciples, 'Why does he eat with such scum?' When Jesus heard this, he told them, 'Healthy people don't need a doctor. Sick people do. I have come to call not those who think that they are righteous, but those who know that they are sinners.'" What I love about this simple, quick story is there's so many layers to this and there's so much depth to this that I want to break down some of that. The first thing is this, that when Jesus was teaching on the lakeshore, he then invited Levi to follow him, and then Levi invited him into his house. And we often think about in church settings or places like this where we go, man, like this is where relationship is where I learn from Jesus. And church is, I heard the guy teaching on the stage. That's not the picture of relationship we see in this passage. Yeah, Jesus did teach on the lakeshore. And he did share things that were true, but then he invited Levi, hey, come follow me, come live life with me, come be a part of this. This is just an introduction piece. And I don't think even just the fact of him inviting him to follow him was where that relationship started either. It's not the speaking to a large crowd, and it's not the invite to follow me. It was the moment where Levi goes, hey, will you come to my house? You bring the people you're around, and I'm going to bring the people I'm around, and we're going to spend a meal together. That Levi's inviting him into his community as like, hey, you're my new teacher. You're my new rabbi. I want to learn from you. I want to know what this looks like from you, but I want you to come and meet the people in my life that are around me. And so they sit down at a meal together, and they eat together. And at the table, you've got the expected disreputable sinners, right? You've got the tax collector and his community that, sure, they are the sick in this picture. And they're the ones that are wrong. But what's also made clear in here too is that there were many people of this kind among Jesus' followers. That when he brought his disciples, it wasn't just that he was eating with Levi and his friends, but Jesus' followers were also in this category. That everybody at that table was a sinner. Everybody at the table was hurting and broken. And Jesus is saying, I'm going to eat with them. I'm going to sit with them. Culturally, this is a huge problem. Here he is, a teacher of faith, somebody who supposedly knows the way to please God, and yet he's associating with sinners and tax collectors. And tax collectors being not just someone who's a sinning outcast, right? But somebody in their society that as the Roman government came in and took over, they employed people from their community to go and take the taxes for them. So now you're a traitor against your own people, working for the oppressive government that's come in. And you're stealing from your own family because here's the thing, they don't pay me to do this. I've got to take the taxes from you, and then I got to set more of those taxes so I can eat as a person and make my living off of it. And as I start doing that, what happened often, and majority of the time, those tax collectors would say, well, if I take a little bit more, then I can get a little bit easier of a life. And if I take a little more than that and take a little more than that, and so you have someone who's seen as a traitor, someone's betrayed their people, and now you're stealing on top of it, and I can see the house you live in, and I can know what you're taking from me and mine. This guy is as far as it can be. And these are the people that this rabbi wants to sit with. And then these leaders that are asking the question, they're Pharisees. They're people that spent their life studying the law and studying the rabbinic law that was added onto the Levitical law and said, like, we can't do this because then we'll lead into sin, and we can't be around those people because they will make us sinful too. And they have all these layers of, I don't want them to be seen as wrong or unclean, so I need to remove myself as far as I can from anything sinful or unclean. And you're going to go sit with these people? And you're supposed to be teaching us what the design is of who God is and what he wants in our life and how do we follow that? And you're going against everything we've been told. How could you have a pirate on your spaceship? How could you have a knight on your spaceship? How could you have that piece in this Lego set? It doesn't make sense. And Jesus' response, healthy people don't need a doctor. Sick people do. I've come to call not those who think that they are righteous, but those who already know that they're sinners. Of course I've got a knight sitting at the table. Because I know there's dragons that are going to come. I've come for this very purpose to show him what his abilities are. I've come for this very purpose to bring people together that don't fit, that don't match, to say we're going to live this life together and we're going to see something amazing come from this. He's calling people together to say, I get it, you're all different. I get it, you're all broken, but God still has a plan for you. And there's something we can do together that's amazing. See, the thing is, Jesus knows exactly what he's doing. And we think about this idea, show me your friends and I'll show you your life. Show me the influences. What's different here is Jesus is not swayed by the influence of those sitting at the table. Why is he not swayed by that? Because he knows who he is. Because his foundational relationships with, I know who I am and I know who God is and I know the plan, makes it to where he can sit at a table with anybody and serve them and love them and not be influenced by their negative behavior. Because if I know who God is, who designed it all, then I know what the truth of every relationship could be and should be. And that's my starting point. And if I know who I am based off that truth and who he is, and I'm confident in that, then man, I can sit anywhere with anyone. Our example from Jesus is he had a great relationship with God the Father. And he knew what his goal and his purpose was. I'm coming here for these very people. I want to be in relationship with them for this very purpose, to bring healing to them. I'm not worried about the influence on me. And it's easy for us to say, yeah, that's Jesus, not me. But the reality is, if we can be drawn back to our relationship with who God the Father is and understand through that he wants you to be a part of his mission, I know what I can be a part of this is, then man, I can go anywhere and sit with anyone. And we can sit at the table with anyone from any walk of life, knowing confidently this is why I'm here, is to take care of them and love them and serve them and represent the love of Jesus to them in this moment. Another thing I want to point out with this story is sitting at the table is one thing. Having a meal with somebody is one thing. Saying, hey, I'm here to fix you is another. Jesus came to heal, not fix. Right? In a sense, there is a fixing, but it's not like, hey, I'm wanting to change who you are at the core of your personality. No, I'm coming to heal you from the brokenness of sin and restore you to who I created you to be, not change who I created you to be. You were created good, and I want to heal you. And sometimes we as his followers go to a table and we sit down with somebody that looks different than us, acts different than us, thinks different than us, and we think it's our job to fix them and bring them to look like us. And we think, okay, well, I'm going to go sit at the table like Jesus did. I'm going to have a meal with them, and I'm going to walk away. Because I did that meal, and I fed them. Or, hey, I saw them on the side of the road, and I gave them some money, and I prayed for them, and I smiled at them. And I'm doing what Jesus did. I came and sat down at a table, and then I get to go back on my own plan in my own way after that. That's not a relationship. That's not what we're called to in this, because what we see here is Jesus taught, and he invited Levi to be a part of the story. And Levi said, hey, I want to follow you. Will you come eat a meal with me and meet my community? And then guess what happened then? Jesus looked at Levi and said, okay, we're going to keep going. And Levi is known by a different name in Scripture as well. He's Matthew. He didn't end the relationship at the meal. He lived life with Jesus for the next few years, every moment saying, how do I be like this guy? How do I live a life like him? And how do I represent him after he's gone? And I want to write this down, and I want to take good notes, and I want to make sure I can pass it on to other people so they know who he is too. There was a real life relationship that went beyond just sitting in a meal with somebody. See, and Jesus did this with a lot of his disciples. There was a lot of people that didn't fit in and didn't fit the picture. You had fishermen who had flunked out of being a rabbi and failed. You had extremists that wanted to kill anyone who disagreed with their theological bent. You had tax collectors. You had women who had been demon-possessed prior to that. You had women in general following him that wasn't considered okay at the time. And he welcomed them, and he said, this is the crew that I want to follow me. This is the people I have come to love. See, this is the example of friendships and what we can bring into our lives. But the questions we have to ask ourselves, are we secure in our foundational relationships enough to say like, hey, I'm not going to get swayed by who's sitting at the table because I know who God is, I know what he wants of me. Can you live like Christ in a way, have confidence in your relationships with God and yourself enough to not be influenced by negative behavior, but rather serve them confidently and show them the truth? And am I willing to do that long term and walk life with them for years on end, possibly? Another question I would ask you is, what does it look like when we lose focus on those core foundational beliefs in relationships? When I start to be in the church long enough that I'm going, man, I know things about God, but am I really a part of his plan? Does he really love me? Does he want me around? Man, I keep messing up, and I don't believe I fit in that anymore. Where do you go when you can't come back to your foundation? And that's a hard question to think about. That moment when you feel like you don't know who you are anymore, or what you believe, or where you fit in, or why you're in church this long. See, this is where I need a friend group. This is where I need a small group of people that can speak into me and remind me of the truth and say, hey, you've lost your focus here. Bring it back to what we know as the foundation. I need someone who will show me the strength of God, remind me of his promises. I need someone who will show me, hey, you know who you are. I need someone who's going to bring me back to that point. And the reality is, this friendship that we get to choose from the sets of life around us and the different experiences of life around us, we get to choose somebody that I know I need in that moment. I know that if I'm going to have a dragon on my spaceship, I need a knight who's going to be able to be the expert in that circumstance. I need to know who I go to when that happens. But the reality is of life, if we wait until the dragon shows up to look for the knight, they're not always there. I need to have a big group of people, an eclectic group, a well-rounded group of friends in my life that I know I've got somebody from this walk and this walk and this walk and this walk, so that I know when something comes, I know who to go to. And so I want to ask that question again. When you come to a point where you lose sight of your foundational relationships, who's the person that comes to mind? When you feel like you don't know who to look at and where to go in your life, who is that friend that you have that reminds you of who you are and who God is? See, I didn't do any fill in the blanks this morning, except for one short answer on the app, if you're a note person on the app. And if you're not a note person on the app and you're somebody who's picked up the journals in the cafe and you're a journaler, I would encourage you to write this down there too. And if you're not someone who's doing either of those, like me, because I'm not a note taker, I'm telling you today, this is something I think is really important to actually write down. Who in your life do I go to when I feel lost or life gets hard? I want you to stop and think about this for a second. Who do you go to when you feel lost and life gets hard? And listen, if you don't have an answer to that, this is my calling out to you that we got to find someone. That we got to find someone today, that you got to know where to go, because there are going to be dragons in life. And there's going to be hard days. And there are going to be moments where we lose sight of who we are. And if you don't know how to answer that, and you don't have a name that comes to mind, then hear me on this. This is not a, hey, I work for SCF. This is a ploy to get you to a program. Because guess what, guys? I don't work for SCF anymore. And I'm not doing that. This is me wanting the best for you. Because I've seen it in my life. That we need to have community and deep level of friendships so that when life gets hard, I know who to go to. And if you don't have an answer for that question today, I'm asking you, this next step banner over here, we talk about, hey, go to the next step after service often. Sometimes we don't really know what that means, so I'm going to make it as clear as I can. See that big banner up there that says next steps? That's the next steps banner. Okay, right below that, after service, there's going to be Whitney and a few others that volunteer with Whitney, that their role is to help you find that relationship, to help you get connected in community so we can support each other and hold each other up the way that the Bible says this is so important for relationships. Man, this is going to be someone who's going to bear your burdens and walk alongside you, and it's going to be hard, it's going to be messy, it's going to be ugly, there's going to be hurt feelings and hard days, but we're going to walk through this life together. And if you don't have somebody, I'm begging you, come get connected. And they're going to help you try to find that. And I'm going to make that clear. They're going to help you try to find that. Because here's the thing. I came in on staff at SCF in 2011, and I came in as the new youth pastor. And I said, yeah, we want to have a small group and a community at our new church as new staff members. And we went to that area and we said, hey, where's a group for us? And we're young, 24-year-old kids, just married, a few years into marriage, and we're new to this group. And they say, hey, here's a group we think would work great for you. And we go to this small group, and we start getting involved in it. And listen, I love all the families that were in that small group. And I'm friends with many of them and deep friends with many of them today. But that was not the group for us. We were placed in a group because, hey, you're the new youth pastor. This is a great one. It's a bunch of parents and high school kids. You guys would fit in great there. Except for here's the problem. I never felt like I could be myself in that room. because I couldn't open up because, man, these are the kids that I'm tasked with caring for and their parents. And if I share where I'm struggling, they're going to be like, oh, we don't really trust this guy to be around them, right? Like, this guy needs more help. Yeah, I need help. We all do. So that wasn't the group for me. And we stayed there for a few months and we didn't know what to do, and we bounced and we went to this group that we started this new thing of like, hey, young out of high school, early college, young marrieds, like we're going to do this 20-somethings ministry thing, and we helped create something. But very soon into that we realized, hey, we're kind of in a different life stage than these other young 20-somethings. We've been married for a few years, we've got a kid on the way, and we don't really fit with this group in the life stage. Again, you look at that group and that small group, and some of my deepest friendships today started there. And a lot of the guys that were in that group are now a part of my small group today. So there was relationships built in all these places, but I never felt that space. And I started going to a group on Monday nights. There was 4 of us that we would meet after work, and we'd just talk about, like, what does life look like, and how are we struggling, and where are things going? And now, here we are from 2011 to today. I think I've missed a total of maybe like 5 Monday nights a year. And that group is completely different looking than it was then. It was 4 of us. And it's kind of now, it's up to like 35, 40, and we don't really know who's coming, but you know what? When they show up, we have deep, real relationships, and we support each other, and we walk alongside each other. Last week, we sat on Monday night, and we said, like, how'd you get here? Who invited you to this? And we shared stories of how we ended up coming, and I got to sit there and think back on the last like 13 years of, that's right, that's when you came. And that's why you came, is because you were hurting and you needed somebody and you needed this, and could do that for you, and we carry each other. So coming down here and saying, hey, I need to find somebody who's going to take care of me is really good, but I want you to hear this. It might take time. And there's going to be hurt relationships in the midst of that. And are you going to stick through it? And there's going to be people holding you accountable when you don't want to be held accountable, and it's going to be hard. Are you going to stick through it? And maybe you just go like, hey, this isn't the group for me, and it's a little bit awkward, but I'm going to find somebody else. That's okay too, but are you going to keep pursuing relationship so that you know there's someone there to take care of you? See, the thing is, our small groups and our friend groups, we get to choose who's in a part of that. And we get to start to put together an eclectic group of friends that makes sense in our life for the things we need. You've heard me talk about it a ton every time I teach here. I think I can't teach without talking about my small group. And you've heard Jason talk about it too. It's because we have found deep relationships. As Brett used to talk about on this stage, Brett used to say, we want deep, spirited relationships. That's what I've always drove at. It's like, I want a friendship. I want a deep-spirited, lifelong relationship where we live the highs and the lows and the goods and the bads with each other. But in order for me to do that, I need to not have a group that is groupthink, insular, and we're all looking the same. Because all that happens is everybody thinks like me and acts like me in my group, then guess what happens? Then I don't ever grow. And there's no one pushing at me to say, hey, Nick, you need to get better at this. And hey, Nick, that's not really what Christ wants from you. And hey, let's move and let's get uncomfortable and let's listen to what Jesus is doing so that we can grow and change to be more like him, not be more like who you are in your thought process. Because, man, I'm not him. And so when I think about my small group on Monday nights, I can tell you there's a wide range of age and life experience. As I've looked at that, there are people older than me and younger than me. There's people that I have been their youth pastor, and there's people that have been the leaders taking care of me. There are pastors, there are elders, there are people that have been around my life in every stage, and there are peers of mine. And I learn from them in just simply saying, I've never done this before, what are you doing? And I learn from those younger than me of, man, I never made that choice, and that's working out a lot better than what I did. How's that working for you? And I can learn from different age and life stages. When I look at my small group, there's a wide range of the political spectrum. And we've got guys that are as liberal as can be and guys that are as conservative as can be. And I love those days when they go at each other. It's kind of funny to me because I'm like right in the middle and I'm just like, yeah, Wallace is laughing down here. I'm like, yes, Wallace, that's you. I love Wallace in that group because Wallace is probably the one who's the most different from some of that group, but he challenges so many in that group. I'm like, yeah, like, let's go, bring it. Like, I want that conversation because here's the thing. When we look at hard topics in life, whether it's political or not, we need to balance each other and we need to see the other side and we need to wrestle with, is this the way God actually wants us to respond? Or is it just what we all think we should respond like? I need someone to challenge me and challenge my thoughts and challenge my belief system so I know if it's really where we can be. And here's the thing, we walk out on Monday nights often disagreeing but still loving each other. Because we respect each other on a human basis level of, I might disagree with your politics, but I love you for who you are. We have different skill sets and hobbies. In times of need or in times of joy, we can learn from each other and we can celebrate with each other because that guy's way different than me, but man, that looks awesome and he's having a good time with that hobby. And maybe sometimes for me it's like, hey, I'm not a football guy, but I've been hanging out with a lot of football guys and I'm learning the game more and I'm actually watching games for the first time. Because I've learned from them like this can be enjoyable, even though there's only like 10 minutes in the game and I don't really get it. But one day they will understand that hockey's the better sport and they'll learn from me. And they'll see what a real game of 60 minutes of play looks like. And we learn from each other, right? We're going to come back to skill sets and hobbies in a second because I love this idea. But we got different levels of spiritual gifts in our group. We got people that are givers to the core of who they are. We have people who are pastors who walk alongside, not pastor role, but pastor spiritual gift, that they will care for and walk alongside you and see you and listen to you and sit with you in the pain. We've got people that are the most merciful and gracious people in that group. And what I see in this is we look around the room and I go, man, everyone's got different spiritual giftings. I realize this is the church. It's not the group that comes together here at SCF on a Sunday morning as much as when I'm in a small group with people and we each have our giftings and our skill sets and we are actively serving each other and lifting each other up on a daily basis. That's my church. We can't all look the same. We got people on different spiritual life levels. We've got guys that have been living this idea of following Jesus for 40 years, 50 years, and man, I can learn from them and the pitfalls and the things that they've gone through. And I've got people in that group that are brand new baby Christians who ask raw, real, painful questions. And I go, oh my gosh, I never thought about that. And I completely missed an aspect of who God is because that wasn't my life experience and I wasn't struggling with what you're struggling with, but as I see it, I understand him more. And I'm drawn back to the joy of the gospel again because I see it through someone else's eyes and I'm not as jaded as I have been. See, this is my group. This is my group that when I need someone to come to my house because I broke some things in a moment of anger, they're there to help me and teach me and counsel me through those moments. And I know who to call. When I need someone to come and help me with parenting advice, I know who to call and get an extra perspective. I've already got my parents and I've got my in-laws and I've got that advice from them, but I can get another voice and another voice. And I can get more perspective in my life. I know who to call. When I need a plumber, I know who to call. I really do. When I need an electrician, I know who to call. When I need a hug or a fire belt, and anyone that's in my Monday night group, you know exactly who I'm thinking about with this. Because that pyro also gives really good hugs. I know who to call. When I need a joke, I know exactly who to go to make me laugh and bring my spirit up. See, in my small group, there is a large group of men in there that we have lots of different things, and I have pirates and spacemen, and I have knights, and I have policemen, and I have wizards, and I have construction workers, and I have all these different sets that have come together, and people look at us on a Monday night and go, why are you friends with each other? Because we all want to follow Jesus together, and we all have come to a table, and we have all lived life following this guy who told us life can be better than what is on our own and where we are alone. Even though I might not agree with some of them on a nightly basis, doesn't mean that I can't gain wisdom from them and learn and grow because of their influence in my life. I grow because of the belief systems that have challenged me and pushed me in our conversations. I grow because they are all focused on this main purpose. And here's the thing, what we're talking about today, in this finding those people that you want to put in your life, it's not just any friend. It's finding the people that will point you back to who God is and what He's called you to be a part of. It's finding people that the one thing we have in common is Him. We're going to hold each other accountable to living life following Him. And we're going to do it in a community and lift each other up. But we have to put ourselves in proximity to develop these relationships. In order for someone to become my friend, I need to spend time with them. And it goes beyond an hour on a Sunday morning. There's a lot of people in this room, we would use the word friend in our culture. And I like you. And I like spending time with you, and I like talking to you. But you're not that level of friendship where it's deep-spirited relationships because we've lived life together day in and day out like these guys have been in my life. Not saying that that's wrong or bad. I'm just saying I found my core group of guys that, man, when I need an emergency moment, I know who to call. And it starts with, hey, I've met you. Then it builds from that to, how do we spend time together? We have to put ourselves in proximity with one another on a long-term basis to develop that relationship, kind of like the example Jesus gave us of, hey, come follow me. Come be my disciple. Let's invite each other over. Let's eat meals together. Let's live life together. Let's walk through the highs and the lows and the difficult points of life and say, I'm here for you. Not just on a Sunday morning and not just at a Bible study once a week. But when I need you, I call you and you show up. And when you need me, you call me and I show up. This is what we can have in our relationships if we are intentional about who's there. Show me your life, or show me your friends and I'll show you your life. Can be, hey, I'm going to be intentional about the absolute weird mix of people that don't belong in my Lego set. Because I know what's coming in life, and I want it to be that question when people look at you and say, why are you with them? Well, because I'm living a modeled life off of Jesus. I'm following Him, and I'm living life with people that support me in that bring me back to my foundational relationships on a regular basis. So here's the thing. The levels of our relationship in life can look like this, and this is a can, if you are intentional about it. The foundation of our Lego set is built from the truth of God and who He is. The next level is structure built, connected to that foundation, built on this idea of who I am in His plan and who He tells me I am. Then it's reinforced, and it can be reinforced by your family that is building your set in a way that looks like the picture on the box, I hope. But it is our friendships that sustain us and call us back to what God has provided in our lives. It is our friendships that can influence us to grow, that can challenge us, and that can keep us following in Christ. And that's where you get to pick every specialized Lego piece you can for your life to move you forward towards what God is calling you. And if you're feeling like this morning you don't have this community and you want a community like this, again, I cannot say this enough. Please come start that process. Put yourself in proximity with somebody. Give it time. Live life with someone. Understand it's going to hurt and it's going to be messy. But keep living life with them. Because we need to have eclectic sets of Lego pieces that come together in our life to build us up and to keep us moving forward as we follow Jesus together. So I highly encourage you, if you need that, if you want that, if you're looking for that today, please come down to the Next Steps area and connect with Whitney and whoever else is there. That is why they are there today, is for you to start the process of finding who's the knight that you need when the dragon shows up. And guys, I'm again thankful as always to come back and teach here and be a part of this community with you guys. I love being here. Thanks for having me. I'm going to hand it off to Warren as our service host, but I don't know where Warren's at. There you are. You're behind me today. And he's going to wrap us up this morning.
Sweet. Thank you, Nick. Awesome. Hey, just a couple of things. A lot about relationships, right? One thing that I want you to think about is a relationship you can pour into if you just have a few minutes every single week. And Foster the City is right over there in the corner. Talk about a group of kids whose Lego sets have been completely demolished, right? Mixed up. I've worked with a lot of foster families in my life. It was a job of mine. And boy, that identity is kind of turned upside down. And if you can pour into that relationship, if you have time, they would love to talk to you about that. Small groups. I'm meeting with my small group right after church. We're going to a park. We're having a very important meeting on how to keep our kids in bed at night. So pray for us. No, pray for us. Because I'm tired of being tired, right? But anyway, hey, if you would like any resources on small groups, something to pour into you, right over there. And our prayer team, can we agree that no prayer is too small for God? Or too big? They would love to pray with you about anything, okay? So they're there every week. Thank you so much for being there. And if you need prayer, just go there and see them. Hey, thank you so much for being here. Enjoy the weather, and we'll see you back here next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
shining. Sun is shining.